I met Eve on the day that she was planning this walk. She was in my house and making notes. It was New Year's Day, everybody else was getting drunk and she was planning to do this climate change walk.
Last year I walked 1,300 miles around England. It was a project called the Buzz Tour, and the purpose of the tour was to pollinate change and to explore the different things that people are doing to protect the environment and to protect our future. And we met amazing people, and so I say we because I actually had companions with me. So I had 10 different companions for different lengths of time. They came and went, and it brought a different rhythm to it. We met and interviewed over 90 people. So over the course of 4 months, we came across a huge variety of projects. So it's a real pleasure for me to be able to show you some of those projects. So the walk started in Totnes in Devon, and I had Steph Bradley with me for the first couple of days, and then it was just me, but went up to Bristol, across through Stroud, Oxford, Cambridge and Norwich. Then we cut back and went to Nottingham, Sheffield, Manchester, and then turned back east again and went to York and up to Berwick-upon-Tweed.
What you're interested in, what's so beautiful about what you're doing is looking at what's already existing in our culture, what's emerging in our culture, and sort of little seeds beginning to sprout here and there that look as if they're not connected, and actually beginning to draw them into connection with each other and put people in contact and see what comes together. And then one element in that, one little sprout, is meditative culture and the mindfulness movement, and broader than the mindfulness. One of the things that again, with training that meditation might offer, or practice might offer, is just developing enough resource that I actually don't need to do this, and I realize that I don't need to. I put less pressure on myself, my finances, the planet, the resources of the planet. Because I have enough inside me. Really, with a group of friends and colleagues, just set up something that would be a forum and a platform for people to bring whatever they brought. That the idea was everyone could be creative. It wasn't top down. It was really anyone can bring whatever, and the whole range of, as I said, personalities, styles, directions, inclinations, moods, colours of what might be involved in active engagement that has perhaps a more spiritual dimension can be brought there, and everyone can plug into what they want to, really.
The whole nature of the model around which our economy is built needs to change. Not just our economy, the global economy. It's really clear to me that it doesn't work to serve the needs of everybody or our Earth. But, to be frank, I don't have the mind, those are not my skills, as to reinvent a system and then introduce it, But I do, and we do, Embacum has the skills to meet people at a personal level and an organisational level and ask those questions about values, about what would make a life well lived, and then try and assemble things to actually meet those values and express in behaviour. We can't stand on the sidelines and assume that everything's going to be okay, that each one of us in our own particular circumstances are called to stand forward and in our own way, according to our gifts and the things that we love and all the rest of it, take action to participate.
When I was a little boy, I liked to catch the rain, while people all around my town watched it flow right down the drain.
Protest is the one thing they really listen to. I recently had a conversation with Michael Meacher, the ex-Environment Minister. He said you just don't realise how much of an influence even these small protests make. It's just standing outside with a banner like that. These big corporations absolutely hate it. They want to project a nice, squeaky clean image. And if we come along and actually just prove, which is not too difficult, that they're not as nice and squeaky clean as they sort of project themselves to be, they actually start running up the drain pipes and everything like that. And it's purely because of the protests and the soil either pulling of crops, which started in 1998, and that's the only reason that we haven't got GM crops in this country. And I've heard from very high authority that the whole world's watching what's happening in the UK. If we let GM into this country, the whole of Europe will go.
I'm a director of Avalon Community Energy Cooperative, which is a new community energy company, which is a non-profit company seeking to generate up to 10 megawatts of electricity from renewable sources and to provide that energy to locals. What we want to do is set up an energy park. And an energy park is basically not just a field full of solar panels, not just a windmill, not just one technology, but taking more than one renewable technology and then combining that with food production.
It's been a very inspiring time, meeting lots of really interesting people from all parts of the community, all joining together because they want a better future for their children and their grandchildren. And so I'm very motivated by working for a community in that way. I've always worked on a community basis, and it feels very real, and it feels good to be doing something it feels important. It feels important to do it. What could be more important than your children's future?
I've always seen climate change as the most pressing issue to the world. I built a house in an eco-housing community, so I really wanted to help other people to do the same, to really be able to live in a really beautiful space that is also really caring for the planet and for each other. But I was quite far removed from actually doing that. I was sort of stuck in conventions really. I mean, I was a single mom with children, so I thought I had to keep my job to keep a stable income, and also didn't really know, where to start. There were lots of things I didn't know. And then I did a training with an organisation called Balanced View, which trains you up in open intelligence, which is really about being completely natural and relaxed all the time and finding your own solutions to any problems. It just gave me the courage to just go for it, not to be scared about not having enough money or that it would fail. I was scared and I could completely feel the fear, but I was totally able just to do it anyway. And now, 3 years down the line, we've got the most eco-friendly, the first A-rated housing development in Bristol on the energy certificate for environmental impact and for energy efficiency.
Meditation offers you a tool to be able to turn towards that which is difficult, to feel it fully in your body, and then when you feel it, all that energy is released and can actually be channeled and transferred into creative response, creative engagement with others. That's what dance has enabled us as a group. One, to be able to support each other in feeling into this fear, this tremendous fear, and this sadness and this grief and the suffering of our planet, and secondly, to transfer that energy into outward action and engagement through direct action, through whatever is your way that you want to engage with climate change, but at least to actively get off the cushion after you've done your meditative practice and bring that into service for your world. What is the key issue that we haven't chosen to be born into, but this is what it is, and this is the reality, and I want to live a life that is real. I don't want to deny the reality. This is our reality. This is what we're facing. Let's get to work.
Well, we've just come round to the back of the Chantry Centre in Dursley, which is where we've got this wonderful space here. Doesn't look so inspiring at the moment with the concrete, but it's a great footprint for us to make a community garden in. It's great to have lots of inspiring ideas about what the future could be, but in order to be able to act on that hope, sometimes it's necessary to create a bit of space in your own life. I certainly was a busy, full-time working single mum, and so although I had great ideals, it was difficult to put them into practice. And so I found the right time for me to be able to stop that full-time work, and it coincided with my children both starting to go into different schools. Many of us are agreed that the old economy is broken and not fit for the future, and we're trying to find ways to create a new economy. We're feeling our way on this, trying new things, but it's really hard to do that without some reliance still on old economy. We need an income somehow, generally, most of us, and so that's the bridge that I'm trying to build at the moment. I gave up work to start my business because I had a passion about something I really wanted to be able to do. And actually that's been happening, and lots of people ask me how's the business going, but it's other things that have also come to dominate in life because I've created that space, and some of those things are now turning out to be more of what I believe my future will involve, and it's enabling me to create multiple strands of income, which I think is a very sustainable way to live.
Biodynamic agriculture is essentially a totally organic approach to agriculture. A core idea of biodynamic agriculture is to see the farm which we're working as a unit, as an organism, and we try to develop this farm into a whole organism. And that means essentially that we take the given boundary which we have, and within this boundary we are creating something which is alive, which can develop, which can evolve, which can become very individualized. Many of these things are now being developed by organic farming as well and being picked up. But one thing which is completely unique to the biodynamic approach are what we call biodynamic preparations. And these are used to work with and increase vitality and the living process itself. So we're actually working with the quality of life in the plants and in the soil. We try to not simply look at the plant and see what nutrients it needs. The plant of course needs nutrients, but essentially these nutrients are there if we can make the soil as alive as possible. That's all we need to do. If we can make the soil really living, then the soil itself and the plants will be able to access the various nutrients they will need. Obviously we need to make sure that it's enriched, and we're continually bringing compost and living material to the soil. But it's living material we need to bring, and not dead substances like artificial fertilizers.
Miranda's joining me today, and I'm really glad about that, really looking forward to that. I camped in these woods here that you're not allowed to camp in, because there wasn't anywhere else to camp, and it seemed like a safe spot out of sight, and all the time it was about safety, you know, not getting caught. Ridiculous. You know, like this wonderful experience and this beautiful woodland, and all I can think of is fear. I'm hoping that Miranda will give me a bit of guts. That would be nice. I think nothing helps your courage so much as having a friend with you.
My concern about climate change. Why would anyone in their right minds not be concerned about climate change? I've been concerned about it for a long time, and initially it felt like an issue of social justice. It seemed deeply unfair that the people who are suffering the worst effects and the earliest effects of climate change are the people least responsible for bringing it about. I've an added concern to that now, which is that it's affecting us all now. We've seen the floods, we've seen in even much more advantaged societies. Climate change is affecting everybody, and it's something we need to deal with very urgently. But divestment is basically about taking money and power away from the fossil fuel industry. In one way or another, for 15 years or so in my personal life, I've done the easy things. I don't eat meat, I don't drive a car. That it came to a point where that just didn't feel like enough. It felt as if to take effective action we really need to challenge the vested interests of the people who are or the institutions that are responsible for making climate change the incredibly urgent issue that it is now. I have huge respect for people who put their freedom and liberty and lives on the line sometimes by scaling power stations and doing other amazing, audacious direct action.
So the Reclaim Shakespeare Company, it's a grassroots group that we set up to challenge oil sponsorship of the theatre. That's how it all began. Back in 2012 we found out that BP was sponsoring the World Shakespeare Festival and the Royal Shakespeare Company, and this made us quite upset. Some of us who really love the theatre, really love Shakespeare, really hate BP or just oil companies in general, and the fact that these companies that are doing so much to wreck local environments, abuse human rights, contribute to climate change, lobby against clean energy policies around the world, keeping us trapped in this fossil fuel nightmare, they are trying to get away with it by presenting themselves as lovely, friendly companies who are socially responsible and sponsoring the arts and culture, and it's a big part of their PR strategy. And we're really unhappy that the work of Shakespeare in particular was being used as, a kind of PR tool by a horrible oil giant. So we thought we wanted to challenge it, and so we're like, hey, how about you go along and before the start of one of these BP sponsored plays, you could jump up on the stage and do a little performance in a Shakespearean style all about BP and oil and climate change, and yeah, that's where it all began. He had a friend on stage who asked the audience to, if they agreed that this was a problem, to rip the BP logo out of their programmes in protest, and a lot of people did rip the BP logo out of their programmes. There was lots of applause in the audience when they performed and they ripped the logos out, and this made us think, hang on, this is potentially quite a powerful tactic here, because we are going into these spaces, we're doing something that we're not allowed to do, but we're doing it in a way that brings people with us, so we're kind of challenging the decision makers, and we're challenging the companies, and we're challenging the institutions, but we're doing it in a way that hopefully actually builds support for our campaign amongst the people who also care about the theatre and also care about the arts.
It was a failing building, no one liked the look of it, no one wanted to use it, it was smelly and mouldy and disgusting. What we've done is created a fantastic new building where everyone wants to come and use it, and multi-users can use it at the same time, which is a completely different idea to the original building where it was a single use. It can be open a lot longer with volunteers. It also employs people, and it just gives the community a focus so they can all come in to the building and meet and use it.
We've been around for about 4 or 5 years. A group of us started the group after watching that film Age of Stupid. I don't know whether you remember that, but it was the film that showed what would happen if we didn't act on climate change. So that got us all going and got us started to work locally here in Gamlingay. So what we've done as a group is we've really brought together all the different people in the village who are doing wonderful things to help the environment. So for example, there's a group of people who created this wonderful building, the Gamlingay Eco Hub. There are a group of people who built a wind turbine in the village, which is providing about 10% of the village's electricity. So what we're doing is we're really bringing together, making the village feel as though it's got a real mission and a real kind of energy to change things for the better. And what I would say to anybody, in a village where perhaps there isn't a group like us, is go out, do what we did, and just set it up, start it, and make it happen in your village.
So if you like like everything to look the same, just open up and try to get past it.
We do lots and lots of different things. We have groups that look at food and energy, sharing skills, permaculture, wildlife, and we have a lot of groups that come into existence and then stop existing, and and that's kind of just how things go. And our most recent activity was the Repair Cafe, which we ran on Saturday, which was amazing. It was like something totally new for us. It was the Skillshare group that ran it, and we'd previously done Skills Fests, which are a little bit similar and a little bit different. So it went really well, and it was really well. There was a lot of interest from the local community, like from the press and the radio. So we feel like we sort of tapped into something which people want. And that's really what we want to do as part of Transition. We want to sort of give people something they're already looking for, potentially.
The farm project is part of Transition Cambridge, part of the food group, and I first got involved in them really as, well, I used to do quite a lot of direct action stuff, but it left me feeling a little bit unfulfilled because, I didn't feel like I was connecting with the most of the population by what I was doing. So I wanted to do something that was really positive and more creative, not destructive. And doing different, there's all sorts of projects that happen in the Transition Cambridge food group, and this was just the one that appealed to me the most. And so what we do is bring out volunteers to the organic farm, and they spend a day on the farm doing whatever jobs we need to do. So today we've been doing some planting out in the field, and they get to sit on the back of a tractor, which is fun. And they get rewarded with any seasonable vegetables or fruit or little plants or whatever for their own garden, and then time with the various animals. So someone was riding the horse today as well.
Everything to look the same, just open up and try to get past it.
Peat is a very good growing medium, so as soon as we as humans discovered that this stuff would grow food very, very effectively, we started draining these huge wetlands, and the Great Fen was one of those. So 99.9% of it is now gone because of drainage, but one of the important things to consider is that the actual medium on which a lot of that arable farming is based, the peat itself, is also disappearing. It takes peat 1,000 years a metre to accumulate. So that peat will have taken 4,000 years to accumulate and 300 years to lose. As a consequence of this oxidation, where these little microorganisms and things that you probably can't see with the naked eye are decomposing this peat, a part of that process, of course, they release carbon, and so the fens and any wetland that has been dried out will emit vast quantities of carbon into the atmosphere, which, as we all know, is a greenhouse gas.
What's the best bit? Meeting everyone's kindness and generosity, and oh, do you remember that time in the caravan? Yeah. When we were like knitting and reading ourselves stories, and it was warm and it was raining outside, and then she brought us like tea and toast in the morning on a tray. The caravan, just random strangers with their kindness, and the guy who gave Eve some fruit randomly when we asked for some water. The lady who gave us socks.
It's nice to know that Buzz Toy's carrying on and that there's still months of it to go. I guess this tour has also confirmed a lot what I wanted to believe, that I should put more trust in people, because you will just manage to get by with so much generosity. Like, look after yourself, but if you, like when we realised there was no more food for miles and miles and no more water, and we just happened to bump into two women who offered us a sandwich, and it will keep perpetuating itself like that. Like, just trust the nature and trust the people. We're not living in such a criminalised world like we're being shown on TV. it's much more beautiful out there.
It's one of those rare times where I feel like we can do it. We have to change our culture in order to avoid killing our planet, and a lot of the time, looking at it realistically, I feel like it's not going to happen, but I do it anyway because there's no moral alternative. To not act when you don't know for certain, it isn't a moral choice, isn't an option. And today I got a text from Sama saying how being on the walk had really changed her and how it had made a real difference for her. And I felt so much hope, and I just thought, we don't know how to do it, but there's loads of things that we don't know how to do, but we can learn how to do it, and we are trying to learn how to do it.
I didn't choose to get involved in politics. What I got involved in was Green Party politics, which is very different. I've lived in Norwich for 27 years, and when I came here, I moved here with work, and was very keen on organic gardening and cycling and other environmental aspects of my day-to-day life, and I joined all those campaigning groups, and I've been a member of Norfolk Organic Gardeners for over 20 years now. I was their chairman and their treasurer, and then I realised that we were doing lots of good stuff, beavering away, trying to change the planet, trying to change our world, and yet there are people making decisions in county halls and town halls and city halls and Westminster which actually make a difference to your life, and those people are politicians. I discovered Norwich Green Party, which is aiming to get politicians elected at all levels, and has now been quite successful at getting 15 city councillors and 4 county councillors.
There's grapes there, banana.
Essentially what we're doing here is working with people who've survived torture and other trauma, and they come here. Initially the idea was on therapeutic retreats. More and more what we've realised is that people want to be welcomed into a family home, and it's as simple as that, and that's what we're doing. What goes alongside that is an awful lot of therapeutic work of different types depending on the needs of people who come. And the reason we came here is really from our backgrounds. I was working in the NGO sector and did a lot of work around the UN climate negotiations in Copenhagen, and became very disillusioned and very burnt out by the process, partly because it didn't seem to be going anywhere, and partly because I just felt too many people had become institutionalised by the process and had lost the passion and the integrity of what they were doing there in the first place. Sophie, my wife, was a doctor, and equally, as much as we both loved the NHS, was very burnt out by her work in the NHS, and started to work more and more with survivors of torture as a doctor, and wanted to be able to focus on that, but not necessarily a lot of the other stress that comes with being. Most of all, it's a lot of fun. It's the best job in the world. We sit in this kitchen with people from all over the world, eating great food that people have cooked, playing music, singing, dancing, laughing, and there's no greater therapy for anyone, really.
I've been here now around 11 years, and things are different here now to how they were at first, and I spent previous 10-15 years travelling around the world as a fashion photographer and an advertising photographer, a very important lifestyle, maybe 50 to 60 international flights a year, travelling to different countries, staying in lots of places, using a lot of carbon, and then I'd often thought about change, but it's a very difficult process to change. Very difficult to have gone from this other lifestyle where earning thousands of pounds a day, taking pictures of beautiful people in really warm, exotic, wonderful countries, selling lies to people, to actually kind of facing up to the hard truths of the fact that, you know, we're all human and we need to cooperate with each other, and we're all part of this planet. And I decided I'd slow down a little bit, and it was very, very difficult because everything around me seems to be getting much faster, this idea of novelty increasing. And so I began to slow down and to look at myself and to try and find ways to observe myself. So this involved many forms and practices, from simple things to just watching and observing what my natural patterns, to maybe 10, 20, 30 days of just sitting there meditating and kind of sort of realising what my own truth was, rather than the truth I'd been creating for others, and through the media and seeing things, and to actually just sit and just watch all this wonderful stuff around me happen. And then I think one of the major things, because people ask me how do I stop? I can't stop. I have a mortgage. I have this thing. I have that. I have all this stuff. It's just so big. I can't. And I guess I just did it one thing at a time. I stopped watching television. I stopped reading newspapers. Stopped listening to any kind of media. And then all of a sudden, I didn't want anything anymore. I realised I had everything. And the things I needed, I already had, and the things I wanted were things that were kind of illusionary, that were created. This whole world that I'd worked in, where I would create this illusion of something being desirable and slightly unobtainable and wanting more of it. I think that's the most important thing. People are too hard on themselves, and just to do it one stage at a time, and just to do one small achievable step and then another after that, and to just keep on going, and before you know it, that will just be your life.
For me, that is something that has dominated my life for the past 2 years. I've just, been living and breathing Cly, and I'm really proud that we've absolutely been able to achieve that for future generations. Not only the land purchase itself, which is very moving when you see it and you see the connection it makes over the whole coastline. That's about 8 kilometres of coastline that then will be in conservation care. But also the education centre itself as well, and having that opportunity for future generations really to come and visit and understand more about what we're trying to do.
And so I went along thinking, well, I might as well get a certificate on my year off, it will look good on my CV. And nearly left on the first night because it was all really, it was just really very hippie and very kind of, oh, permaculture's going to change your life, it'll be amazing. I was like, okay, really? And within the first couple of days of it, the hair was up on the back of my neck, and it wasn't anything new, but it was all everything that I'd already known coming back in a real kind of way that made total sense, and suddenly was like, yeah, of course, yeah, I knew that, why didn't I think of that before, kind of stuff. And so from there, that was 11 years ago, got these absolute things that we'd wanted, like had to be within 2 miles of a train station and above 30 metres above sea level and about 30 acres and within an hour public transport from my mum, and we compromised on all of those. And we came to look round here and I didn't really think much of it until we were down the woods in the bottom, and I kind of went, oh, maybe this is it. Oh. And so we moved here in that summer, and yeah, it's been totally the right thing. It was lovely. It was kind of at rock bottom at that point. There was no diversity. The soil was completely compacted, completely sprayed. It had been an arable, conventionally managed arable oilseed rape field for decades, and then it had been turned to Italian ryegrass with no diversity. That had been pumped full of fertilisers and pesticides, and in 3.5 years it's now this kind of buzzing. We've still got a long way to go, but there's so many insects, so much birds, so much diversity of things that we've brought here but also that have come by themselves, and we've shared it with so many people coming here for courses and passing by, and it's great, we love it.
Behavioural change is around inviting people to examine their choices and then think where those choices might no longer be serving them. And if you can identify a choice that isn't serving you, how do you then make a better choice? so that you start to look at the ways in which your thought patterns create choice. So you get very into thought, and we work with people on what they're thinking, what they're believing, and how those thoughts and beliefs are actually creating the reality that they think they are seeing. About 10 years ago now, because we were grant funded at the time, one grant after another, and somebody said, you realise that what the modalities, the change modalities you're working with, and what you're bringing to people would be of real value in business. You could sell it, and then you could choose whoever you want to work with. So we started to develop what we like to call the Robin Hood School of Finance. And we started to work with corporate organisations. So how have we ended up in a field at the farm? So on May the 13th, 2010 was our house fire. So an arsonist set fire to our home at 1:45, and it was the whole drama of smoke alarms and taking the kids out of their beds, and actually we'd had a year of fires up to that point on our property. We'd had 7 fires started, and we kind of sat back and went, well, now what? Having lived through that, now what? And it just was so clear that instead of talking about the eco dream and the self build and watching grand designs and going, we'll do that one day, it was time to just bite the bullet and do it in any way that we could.
The sumac, basically, like for many years it was known as an activist space, and I've got the impression that lately, like in the 3 years I've been here, like it's kind of not switching, but like moving towards more community based activities and projects. The People's Kitchen, for instance, is one practical example of that, where every Saturday evening different groups of people cook for a meal that is very affordable and is vegan, so it's suitable for everybody, every culture, and is to raise money for either the sumac or different causes.
It's been a really incredible weekend. It's not quite exactly what I expected, actually. It's been quite surprising in terms of what we've done together. Went to Sumac, which was incredible, just meeting people who are volunteering for helping migrant women with their English, and we had an incredible meal with them and learned about all the amazing community activities that are taking place under one roof. And then we got to stay in a co-op, a housing co-op, so set up by Radical Roots, so really just such a rich experience. And then today walking through Nottingham and just again having really incredible conversations. I just feel like I just want to quit my job and walk. That's my conclusion, I think. It really inspired me. I feel really inspired to be really engaged and to push myself a bit further and have less fear.
If I meet new people every day, I don't want to just be like, oh my god, climate change is overwhelming, I don't know how we're going to do it. I want to try and be giving them my best, the best me that I can be, the best be that I can be, to be like, we can do it, it's fine. No, it's not fine, but we can do it. You know, to be honest and yet hopeful and positive. Maybe I can be honest and hopeful, but maybe I can't always be honest and positive. But yes, today obviously I'm very, very fortunate. There's so many days I'm very, very fortunate to be given food, to be given love and shelter and inspiration. You know, a lot of people giving me inspiration and allowing that inspiration to pass through me so that I can pass it on. That's really, yeah, this is a really good idea to come and do this walk. Obviously I know it's my idea, but it was a really good idea. And I'm going to stop now before I get all emotional.
Regather is to try and enable people to do cool ethical projects in the community in Sheffield, and to try and facilitate individuals and projects from the Regather building. So there's a kitchen, a workshop, studio space, and I guess it's to try and facilitate cool projects.
It was started very much in reaction to kind of me getting very angry with lots of corporations on the high streets, just trying to work out why there were so many costers, and then basically seeing that the independents weren't having any chance at all. So I decided to start pop-up shops to be able to give a kind of like a bit of an entry level for independents, so give them a chance to trial their business and then grow, and then hopefully move on and get their own shop. So we've been doing that for about a year and a half now, and we now have a 4-storey building in the city centre.
Hello, I met you at Strip the Willow yesterday. Hey, how are you doing? Hey, good to see you again. So I'm in Uterbridge and they're preparing for the Tour de France. So Tour de Baz meets Tour de France, and the streets are empty. There's like 1 or 2 vans that are preparing for the race, but other than that, the pedestrians and the cyclists have reclaimed the streets.
So coming out of Sheffield, I was feeling so drained, and I was actually a bit upset. So I rang Miranda, and I was just a bit lonely, and I was like, "Hello, how are you doing? What's going on?" And it was really lovely to talk to her. Like, I think when I had friends with me on the walk, it did feel like home, and it was much harder to get worn out. Last night I went to the TTIP meeting, so the Trans-Atlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, which if it were to go through would be horrendous. It's like NAFTA, which is they call it a trade agreement. It's basically a corporate takeover of democracy. So they have the right to sue government. It's overarching. It would affect everything about our future, and it's a living agreement. So they would have access to lobby for any when any legislation was proposed that might affect trade, which is pretty much everything, anything about the environment, health, welfare, you name it.
Our grandchildren have to inherit something better than what we're leaving them at the moment. And any town can grow food. It isn't about growing food. Any town can grow food, but you have to grow kindness and community along with it to have a sustainable town, because it's all about looking after each other when trouble comes.
I'm Jess. I came to Hollybush about 7 years ago. I'd given up my job because it was really stressful and I couldn't stand it anymore, and it got me down in the dumps, and I decided to take a fresh new look at my life, and I really wanted to do something about the environment and about the conservation. I've been a nurse before, so I wanted to bring in the health element into the environment. The volunteer coordinator's job came up, which I've got now, which how I support people to improve their health and well-being through gardening, woodworking, environmental activities, it could be working in a cafe, supporting other people. It's fantastic. I get to meet lots of different people, signpost them to different opportunities, and I support them to take part in those activities and help nudge them to do other things that might be good for them. And recently I started up a walking group, which I love to bits at weekends. So yeah, that's me.
Excuse me. I have a general announcement to make. Sorry, it's quite inconvenient. We're running out of oil.
I think for me it's just a space where lots of people can get empowered and find out about many different areas of activism, of the world, just a bit more or less anything, and a place where people can share skills. And it's a great network of people at the same time. This is like directly affecting a company or a business or whatever the target is, and on my side we got given iGas, which is one of the main players in the fracking industry in England, and I'd been meaning to go for a while, I just never found the time to go, so yeah, this was awesome. And blockaded it with a lovely group of people, some that I knew and some that I didn't, in London. How about you?
I went to Corbury Hill, where we closed down the site for 5 hours.
Woo!
And that was really good. It was a really interesting experience. It was the first time I'd done anything like that, and definitely it was such a pleasure and such an honour to be on that action with the people I was on that with, and it felt like, you know, that we felt really, really together and strong.
The whole country was invaded by anti-frackers. There were 13 different actions and no one got arrested for the whole day. The festival is open to absolutely everybody who wants a better social, environmental and economic change.
So we're having a walker's salute.
Powers of the feet combined.
Wiggly little toes, energy, going. Ninja feet!
Ninja feet!
Fuzzy toe!
The council cuts meant that the park had to be left unlocked overnight, and that's quite a big thing because also the on-site gardeners, the funding has gone for that as well. The council said, well, you know, what do you suggest? The community, what do you suggest? And there was about 5 people at the meeting, and I kind of came up with an idea that this house that was disused in the park, we could maybe make a little cafe heritage centre idea, and people, the councillors said, well, nobody had ever mentioned that before, so because my background, I put a little video together and sent it to the council, and they called me in and said, well, actually, let's talk. Every time you come into the park, people come up to you and say, well, what's next, what's happening, you know, and it really energises you. And I think it, you know, if you've got that energy coming from people, it just drives you on to want to move it forward as well.
So Miranda called a couple of hours ago, and Rupert was hit by a car this morning. He was on his bike. So Rupert walked with me to York, and he was really badly hurt. They were able to resuscitate him, but he's in intensive care. So just got to keep sending him my prayers and my best wishes, and I hope he pulls through. I just heard from Oxford that Rupert is stable and he's having an operation today to work on his leg and his pelvis. Yeah, so so grateful that he's alive.
Welcome to Scotswood Community Garden. So it's a community-led project. It's a charity in the west end of Newcastle in an area called Scotswood, and our garden is based on the principles of permaculture. The area we're in Scotswood is a highly deprived area, in one of the lowest percentiles of deprivation in the country. So it's really important the work we do with a lot of the local youth groups, and certainly a lot of the volunteers as well who come from difficult backgrounds, and a lot of people come here for mental health reasons. As you can see, it's a lovely relaxing environment, and I think all the volunteers enjoy coming from that point of view.
I was unemployed. I went to a company called A4E, Action for Employment, and I was put on a placement for 13 weeks. And I've never been away since, and I quite enjoy it. Now I'm taking on to become a beekeeper. I'm getting hands-on training, going for my beekeeping course next spring, and hopefully I'll get that.
This morning I'm eating fantastic scones that were given to me by a lady, Sue, who runs a gallery, and this is where I'm eating them. It's the most stunning morning. Dunstanburgh Castle ahead of me and the sea, and I just think, wow, it's a tough life, but somebody's got to do it.
I would say that one of the reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing, or why I enjoy what I'm doing, even though it's certainly not been a very profitable thing at all, is that it is slightly still unpredictable. You know, you still don't quite know how things are going to turn out, and at the same time it gives you an opportunity to investigate and produce and test new things in a new way.
And a lot of it, I think, is the group activities as well. So whether we're running a course where we're demonstrating how to build a building like this, or whether you're working with a community group to work towards a solution that will ultimately produce a building, then it's the group dynamics. It's not knowing what is going to be brought to the table by this wide, disparate bunch of people. Not having elaborate foundations that require a great disturbance on the ground.
Not using lots of cement or concrete at all, in fact hardly anything at all. Trying to reduce or eliminate the use of plastic wherever possible.
It does end up as being a simpler way to build.
So the walk's almost over. I'm going to get to Berwick tomorrow by the looks of things. And I'm so delighted with how it's all gone. It's exceeded my expectations in every way, really. I think I'm really looking forward to the next steps now. I think I've called my last contacts today, called some contacts for Berwick, and then find as many things as I can in Berwick before I head off, before I get my piece of cardboard right south and hitch back.
Eve was actually passing through Durham, which is one of my old haunts. I was at university there and sang in the cathedral choir on the day that my accident happened, and was able to inform the cathedral authorities about it, and I gather various people have known about it, and I've been on a prayer list and all the rest of it ever since, which is quite amazing, amazingly sort of synchronous.
Wow.
Eve, it's amazing to be here at the pollination party months after you first called me up and came to stay with me, and realise, wow, you did it. You did that walk. And I'm really touched today, really touched, really inspired at meeting the other people that walked with you, and feeling like they're kind of like their kin, like they're kind of, I feel a part of them, and that feels so special. And then here today, and then you've done it, you've done it so well and brought these people together, and I'm feeling that I haven't even begun to receive all that I'm going to receive from this that you're doing. Feels like it's the beginning. Like we're here to celebrate kind of the walk having finished, but I'm feeling inside like this is the beginning.
Mix it up, mix it up, mix it up, bring it back, bring it back, bring it back to many, many, many.